This is an update to my game dev and life stuff. So my brain is cooked. It's properly cooked. And I have two things to blame for that. The first thing is I have begun my journey to learn Chinese. And man, it's definitely tough. The other thing is that I finally found a solution for a problem I've had for a while. And yes, it's pertaining to Locus Protocol. Both of these things made my head hurt in very different ways. So let's get into it. I took my first Chinese tutoring lesson yesterday. Was definitely different than what I expected. I thought it was gonna be like a classroom style environment, kind of like what I was used to back in college and stuff, but definitely it's something different. She was really helpful. It really drained me by the end of the night. Even though before bed, I decided to just, hey, let me practice a few phrases. And yeah, it's something I am glad to say that I'm gonna continue. In terms of the class, I felt like that rearranged my brain in a way that I'm not used to. Even now, while talking, I'm still thinking about how I'm saying things. I find myself trying to correct the way that I speak because that has really changed the way I view language. First, there's first tone, there's second tone, third and fourth. I feel like I struggle with third. I believe it's a third tone. For example, saying ma means different than saying it with the first tone. Ma, even that can sometimes be a little bit challenging, especially with the other tones, because in one instance, you could be saying ma as in like mom, and then the other instance, you do not know how to say it or which tone it is, but it's one that sounds like you're saying, I believe it's horse. I gotta tell you, my brain starting out was not wired for that, and it's been a good thing to challenge myself with, but you definitely have to hear yourself differently. Learning a new language or learning something new, especially with a language, and start thinking about the stuff that you're saying and how you are saying it, and if you're following the set of rules for that language. So I'm not in a formal program or anything. The way that I'm learning Chinese is by using textbooks to kind of like read on my own time. This book definitely comes with like an audio portion of it where you can hear some of the words that are being said. And then, like I mentioned, I'm also doing via tutor and then also on my own. It's a little bit more difficult on your own because you don't really, like, you hear yourself talk, but you don't really hear on how to say it properly or differently. Moving forward, I definitely will continue with the tutor. It's a one-on-one way to speak to somebody about how my process is, where the holes are that I'm learning. I don't know if I have any current friends that speak Chinese. I'm sure I might. And one thing to note is that when you're learning something, embarrassing in public or embarrassing in private, you're still learning. And here is what I'm committing to on camera. So you guys can hold me accountable to make sure that I'm doing this, or like, hey, you didn't do this kind of thing. I am going to try and work a word or two in my videos so that I am solidifying what I am learning. It's a way for me to look back and really analyze how I've been saying things and can see the difference once it is corrected. And moving forward, anyone who does speak the language, I apologize in advance if it's said improperly. I don't mean to say it improperly or to offend anybody. I am still learning and trying to do the best that I can with this. Okay, so now Locus Protocol, game dev. Being solo, at least for this project, means you gotta take care of everything. You gotta take care of code, art, music, testing, marketing, website, design, and release. It's a lot to juggle, and you don't have anyone to turn to. I'm not a pro at this, and don't think anyone should expect themselves to be a pro at it. I'm sure there are people who are in the AAA space or AA space, however you want to call it. Learning is part of life, and we will learn for the majority of our lives, whether it is from our peers or a stranger on the street. I always believe that you can learn something from everyone. So with Locus Protocol, there are in total of 80 waves, or 80 waves, 80 levels, kind of, you can call them levels. The demo that is on itch.io and that also will be available during Steam's Next Fest has 10. So you see these shapes here, that's what the entire game is. It's just a collection of shapes. I really loved playing games like Geometry Wars, and it is crazy, especially with the music background. It gets you really going. I wanted to do my own take on it. I definitely looked online for resources on how to make a game like this, and plenty out there, but I definitely wanted to scratch that Geometry Wars itch, but also combine it with a idle or tower defense kind of feeling. Currently I think it captures a bit of it, but I know that there's still things for me to kind of tweak. So those enemies move towards the core. You as a player have to defend the core. You shoot them, they boom, they're gone. But the bosses themselves, they're a collection of these shapes. And don't ask me about Wave 10. Well, I'm still gonna tell you anyway, but the Wave 10 boss, when I was designing it, I was just like, okay, shapes, what can I do with this? And the thing that came out of it was a heart. Didn't think that my first enemy or boss design was gonna be a heart, but yeah, that's where I ended up with. For the gaming developers that are out there watching this, the way that enemies and bosses work is they're basically attached to a parent object that has all those set values, whether it's health, damage, speed, all that jazz. So now we're down to the other issue that I was having while making this game, especially with the enemies and the bosses. It's camping. Camping is there. It's kind of supposed to be there, but not so early on. So some of the feedback from the playtesters of this game, they said from the beginning, just sit right there and it'll do its thing, because there is auto fire in this game, and that's okay, that's cool, but I don't want it to feel like, at least at first, that they're not rewarding themselves with certain action. I want the player to feel like they are being rewarded for their actions, and those actions later on will lead into gaining the skills needed to just sit there. Part of the game's design is so that you're still moving around, even to this day, I don't even know if I should add some sort of player health, because then I feel like there would be a lot to track on top of the core health and the player, and especially with all the enemies around. We'll get back to it. We'll see how that comes out, and maybe it'll work. So in this game, I have kind of like an AI system called the director. The director basically just looks at how you're playing, how fast you're completing waves, and can reward you for it. But with this camping issue, it kind of punishes you as well. It takes a bit of time for it to punish you for just camping there. I do have to set like maybe certain parameters that don't accidentally punish you, because currently if you're within a certain radius of the core, it will start calculating or start a timer, I guess, top start, and once that reaches it, you're gonna be bombarded with so many different enemies, and depending on the wave that you're on, you may get yellow triangles, you may get red triangles, you might get the cyan squares, you could get a bunch of different things that you are not prepared to tackle. And I've tried it a few times, and it's very difficult to defeat all those incoming enemies at once. This definitely will challenge you in that aspect. We do have I designed a kind of like a node-based system for the upgrades. It's called the skill tree currently. I think there's currently like 50 nodes, but there's only a few that are unlocked in a demo. So part of the camping issue, I had three options. I either had to A, do that punishing thing, B, create an invisible wall, even though, let's face it, no one likes invisible walls. Why can't I go over there? Kind of thing. And the last one is a pushback system, where if you're within a certain radius of the core, it pushes you back to kind of force you away from the center. So I decided to go with almost all three. The invisible wall did not work. It was more of a hindrance, so I decided to take that out. So it's basically the pushback and the punishment system for it. I hate to call it the punishment system, or I don't like to call it the punishment system, because I feel like punishment is such a strong word. But yeah, that's what the director is there for, I guess. So with that, camping is solved. Camping is all great, it's good, but only later in the game, maybe there'll be a parameter for it. I'm going to play test it some more and really commit to getting this out there on Steam Next Fest the best way that I can. Like I said, when you're working on a game solo, it's hard to do all aspects. Any number of solo developers can tell you that it's sometimes it's just a long game. You know, if it's gonna take a while, it takes a while, and not every game will be perfect. Technically, not every game is 100% finished. It's just, you know, you feel like you're at a point where, all right, it's good to release. There will always be something that feel like you need to fix. Just like art, you know, there's always something you can do, but you don't always have to do it. Once it's in a release state, just release it, and then it's all good. You know, you can always come back to it later, but take those lessons that you are learning from that game and apply it to the next one, because it's going to make that next game that much more rewarding to play and better to make. You're going to find so many simpler ways to do things during development that you're like, I should have done that. But you can always just apply that to the next project. All right, so with that, you know, brain is slightly cooked. Chinese tones can be hard, but with practice you can get better at it. Bosses are done, but that remains to be seen. You know, it's pending investigation on whether or not the bosses are actually working as intended. If you're following Locus Protocol on here on YouTube, be sure to visit the description down below so you can wishlist it. If you haven't already played it, it is on itch.io, but you could always just copy the text, paste it into your browser. It's web-based, so you don't have to download anything. And yeah, give it a try. It shouldn't take you no more than 10 or less minutes, depending on how things go. With that, video's done. Go play the demo. Go check out the game on Steam. Artwork is pending currently, but I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.